So I would like to talk about the principles. So there are 3 ethics of permaculture. At the same time, the 13 principles of permaculture, which talks about various things. It's not just one thing. So the principles not just apply on a agricultural land, on a office level, or at a farm level. It is something that you can apply in your life as well. So the first principle of permaculture here is observe and interact. So observation and interaction is very crucial and very important. Observation is not just in the form of observing something randomly. It's about keen observation. Like when you go to a place, when you go to a land, or when you go outside of your home, what is it something that you need to do anywhere? This principle, even with people, even with plants, even with organisms, or even with anything, observe and interact is a very important element. And for any further steps that we take in the nature or in the life, observation and interaction is very important. And the next principle of permaculture that we talk about is catch and store energy. Catch and store energy speaks about catching and storing energy in any form. What is a form of energy? Can anybody type it in your chat box? What is energy that we are talking about here? So energy in this case could be anything. Energy, water is an energy. Yes, light from the sun is an energy. Anything else? Enabling photosynthesis. Okay, so there are different forms of energy. Light is a form of energy, water is a form of energy. So this catch and store energy could be applied again to any context, be it for the farm or be it at a home level. So in the summers, what do our mothers do, or the grandmothers do do they all put this papads and vadiums and all that? Yes. Why do you think they're doing it in the summer? Why do you think they're doing it in summer? Because sun is an energy, right? If the season is lost, then you cannot do it in the next season. This is rainy season. Is there any energy that you are catching, be it at your home? Is there any energy that you're storing? Water, yes, Alifa, you're right. Water is an energy. Like during this season, the monsoon, water is an energy that someone needs to store, because it is a natural energy. It's a renewable one. It is coming to you, and this energy needs to be caught, and this energy needs to be stored. So water is a form of energy, sun is a form of energy, and also solar, going for systems like solar, where you're catching the sun energy and utilizing it properly. So that is what means catch and store energy, which is the second principle of permaculture. So the third principle is obtain a yield. So anytime that you're working on something, you're working for someone or you're working for yourself, you always expect something, right? You just don't work just for the sake of working. If you are giving your energy into something, you need to get back that energy in some form. So permaculture, whenever I'm talking, I'm stressing out a lot on energy, because permaculture talks about using less energies. How can we get maximum inputs? That is why I'm stressing a lot on energy. So minimizing our energies is very important. So when we are obtaining a yield, whatever you're working on in any kind of setting, you need to work on something where it is giving you back something. It is not in any form. It could be in any form, be it compassion, be it love, be it knowledge. It's not just about money or something that you are consuming. It could be anything. That's the third principle of permaculture. Next. So apply self-regulation and accept feedback. Anyone explain what it means? Applying self-regulation. So if you see in a broader context, if you are using a lot of water, so you have shortage of water at your home, and you are still using a lot, you generally use a lot of water, but at some point there's uh, no water in your apartments, there's still lack of water storage, the tanker didn't come. So what would you do that day? What would you do you self regulate yourself, or just keep continuing using the same amount of water that you're getting through? No, right? So you self regulate, you tell yourself, no, there is no water today, or there's no water that's going to be for the next 1 week, so I have to self regulate and accept the feedback, accept whatever it's saying. So there's no water, you need to change, and this is feedback for not just that point, but in the future also. Just because you have water doesn't mean you have to keep using it just because you have access to it, but you need to accept the feedback that at some point of time in your life, or at some point of your time in the future, be it next month, be it tomorrow, be it the day after, you are going to face the shortage of water, or face the shortage of resources, face the shortage of electricity. So that is when it is giving you a feedback, and this self regulation should be continued forever. It's not just for the time where you have the shortage. So this is just an example, it could be applied in any field or any situation that you are in. So the next one is using and valuing renewable resources. What are renewable resources? Renewable resources, anyone? You can type it in the chat box. Solar energy is in a renewable resource. Okay. Wind energy, yes. So there are a lot of renewable resources one can use rather than depending on the non-renewable resources. Like what, you're using a lot of electricity, which means you're generating a lot of coal. For example, if I am using a tractor, if I'm using a heavy machinery on my farm, so it's not just the tractor, it's also the amount of fuel that I'm pouring in, it's also the amount of petrol or diesel or anything that I'm putting in. So all these energies that I'm using, uh, using to just make use of tractor, where I'm putting in a lot of external inputs, and all the energies that I'm using for this particular resource is all non-renewable. Whereas if I'm using a bullock cart, our bullocks, how is their energy? Is it like I use them one time and it exhausts? No, right? You can keep using them. You can keep using them where you're not using things like petrol or diesel or electricity or engine, anything of that sort. Where this is like a difference between the renewable and non-renewable. When I'm using donkeys versus using a tractor, when you're using a cycle, or when you're walking, when you're just walking, or when you're using a bike, what's the difference between using a bike and walking? When you're walking, you're just spending your energy. You can eat food and you can get back your energy, right? But when you're using fuel, when you're using your bike, you want to add petrol, you want to add diesel, there's a lot of other sources of energy that you're putting in, which are the non-renewable sources. So most of us, what are we doing right now? Most of us, even if we want to go to a store which is right next to you, which is right under your apartment, just 5 minute walk, you still want to choose a source of a non-renewable source, which is your bike or your car or something else, rather than you using your body. Why don't we start thinking about you using ourselves as an escort? You can go there, bring it, is also an exercise. It's this multiple functions that you're getting when you're using yourself as an energy, not always depending on cars or scooters or any other sources of non-renewable energies. Next. Producing no waste is also one of the principles of permaculture. So when we talk about producing no waste, this is one of the very important principle, and what we have been doing these days is producing a lot of waste. Some of that waste that we are producing is something that cannot degrade or decompose even in million years. So reuse, first, there are 4 R's. It's not, we always think about 3 R's, right? What are those 3 R's? Reduce, reuse, and recycle. But we need to start thinking about the other R's as well. One is, first, rethink before you start producing your waste, rethink before you buy, repair before you buy a new one. So rethink, repair, regenerate, these are all the R's that should also exist along with these R's. Only when you get something is when you think of, recycling, right? Recycling should always be your last option. For example, in the olden days, not even on the olden days, even when I was a kid, I was, so whatever the clothes that used to come from my sister, whatever the books, or whatever the things that my brother used to use, I used to get them back, because he's using it, he's done with it, doesn't mean he's throwing it away, and I ask for a new one. I get that resource because it's the next one, it's still in good shape and good, uh, functioning good. So it comes back to me, where I'm not producing waste. I'm not going to throw it away and say that I want a new one. You can always keep it and use it for somebody else, or use it for, give it off to someone, rather than, throwing it away or not using it. And also, fast fashion these days, you see a lot of people just, you know buy a lot of clothes and just stock them up in your shelf, not utilizing them properly. And even if there is a smallest tear on your shirt, smallest tear on your bag, earlier there were days where if a bag is torn, we used to go to the person where, they stitch our bags and give it back to you. But now if a bag is torn, you just toss that bag and get a new one. That's how our mindset has become. We have to produce as less waste as possible, because you have to know where your waste is going. Have you ever noticed, or have you ever thought of where your waste that you're generating is going? It is not going to recycling stations. It is just ending up in nature. It is just ending up outside of your cities, outside of your towns, where you see heaps and heaps of plastic generated, or heaps and heaps of waste that you're being generated. It's like as tall as a building, as tall as an apartment if you go outside. But the moment when you see pass through something like that, you face expression changes. You'll say chi, dirty smell and all that. But you don't realize that is the waste that you are generating by yourself, and you're just asking the GHMC or anybody else, just going and dumping outside. So producing less waste is very easy, something that you can rethink before you do something. I've given you the simplest example, the clothes tearing, and using the same thing, just stitching. Stitching is the smallest thing that you can do. It's a very easy thing. It's not a, it's not a tedious task or a rocket science for somebody to reuse their clothes or reuse their material, reuse their bags.